All right, I'm finally back with some more information. I know I think my last video, I was talking about these two folks right here, Hannibal and Abraham, Abraham Lincoln. Um, and I guess I'm just gonna progress from there. Um, I'm gonna talk more about Hannibal, I guess, this time. Uh, so yeah. Um, Before we even look at any information, let's just see um, what pictures Google gives us of these two. More importantly, Hannibal. In this video, Hannibal looks like a pasty white guy, pale. Um, uh, like I said, pasty, just like this guy. We don't know who this guy is because he didn't describe himself as this, though. So I don't know who the hell this guy is. But like I said, just a pasty old guy, nothing special. Um, see him at your retirement home. Uh, see him at the old folks' home. Uh, catch him on the couch watching fucking Prices Right or whatever the hell, Gunsmoke, whatever the fuck the old people watch. Um, yeah, this is what Google is giving us these type of images. So um, I did read the account from Lawrence Tenzer, The Forgotten Cause of the Civil War. And I have to remind everyone again, that book costs thousands of dollars, um, is located in numerous Ivy League schools, uh, even has a copy located in the Citadel, and there is also a copy in the Library of Congress. Probably the original, well, the oldest copy. Like, I'm not making this up. It's actually located in the Library of Congress, Washington, D.C., New England Law, Boston University. So, whatever you think about, I mean, whatever you believe or whatever you think about what I say, is your opinion. Um, and I have my opinions, I have my ideas and everything, but yeah, the reality is this book and other books that paint a different story are located in these fancy schools, and a lot of people just don't have access to the information that's in the books. And the books, like I said, paint a different story than the piece of shit $15 McGraw Hill book that is put in front of every middle school, high school, college, uh, college student's desk, um, that has been worn the fuck out. So going on that, I want to read. There's like a little passage. I read part of it in the video before, but I'm just gonna read the whole thing just to get an idea of where I'm going. Um, and like I said earlier, we've already seen the images that Google has given us, that are supposed to be accurately portraying Hannibal and of course Lincoln, but we're just gonna focus on Hannibal more today. I'm gonna go ahead and read the passage from the $1,000 book that um, is just elusive. So many people can get access to this book because um, it's just hard to get. Um, all right, here it goes. I'm gonna read the whole page, and I'll put the whole page up just so everyone knows I'm not bullshitting. Okay, so an 1851 suit stated the slanderous words are alleged to be the families of Martin and LaFrance are colored people. In the District of Columbia court case in 1832, A judgment was rendered which found slander in saying of the plaintiff, he is a yellow Negro, the plaintiff is a free white male citizen. The fines for slandering a white person by calling him or her a mulatto usually ranged in the hundreds of dollars, which was quite punitive for those days. The name placed a stigma on a person and allowed for gossip and rumor. That such an accusation was treated very seriously and is quite understandable in light of the social consequences if true. In addition to the slander that occurred between ordinary people, political slander took place as well. Senator Hannibal Hamlin of Maine, who would become Lincoln's first vice president, is a notable example. Hamlin had a swarthy complexion. When his skin color was ridiculed by fellow politician John Holmes, Hamlin replied, "If the gentleman chooses to find fault with me on account of my complexion, what has he to say about himself? I take my complexion from nature. He gets his from the brandy bottle. Which is more honorable?" In response to the Lincoln Hamlin ticket, Robert Barnwell, a secessionist leader from South Carolina, gave a speech on July 9th, 1860, in which he declared, "Hamlin is what we call a mulatto. He has black blood in him. The Northern people take that man in consequence of his peculiarity, but they design to place over the South a man who has Negro blood in his veins. They put a man of colored blood on the other side of the ticket for Vice President of the United States." Hamlin's biographer and grandson Charles Eugene Hamlin wrote that the slander was believed by thousands and contributed to the South's desire for secession. Such slander was quite understandable. H. Draper Hunt, a recent biographer, has reviewed a number of different descriptions of Hamlin and concluded that an extremely swarthy complexion was one of his most outstanding physical characteristics. Worth noting is the fact, okay, we've already I've already read that part in the other video, but that's really what I want to talk about. And the whole thing I kind of want to go over in this book is A Tale of Two Stories. It said on the in the passage, um, Charles Eugene Hamlin, um, Hamlin's biographer and grandson, um, pretty much uh, took a whole bunch of events of Hamlin's life and wrote them down in a book. So I just went to Google, um, and the book is also sourced in the Forgotten Cause of Civil War. So I looked it up. I found a PDF version, and here we go. A full text of the life and times of Hannibal Hamlin. Okay, archive.org. Um, let me see. Let me go slow. The life and times of Hannibal Hamlin by his grandson Charles Eugene Hamlin. Now, I wanted to find a picture of Charles Eugene Hamlin, his grandson, but I could not find one on Google. Just a reminder, um, this is what Hannibal Hamlin is supposed to look like. If you want to get some adjectives um, that you think would fit this man, just go ahead and like get a piece of paper and write them down, and see if those adjectives match the description. I mean, they may or they may not. They may not. Uh, I'm just here to present the information. Um, I have my own ideas. I have my own opinions. Um, you can have your own ideas, own opinions. That's fine. But like I said, I'm just here to present the information. So let's go ahead and get into the book. Um, I didn't read all of it, but I'm gonna just go ahead and skip around. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and pause it, and I'll play back the parts I wanted to talk about. Okay, so just starting out with um, Hannibal in his younger days as a child. Um, let's see. Let's get some adjectives or a description. Um, hmm. Um, seemed to be a leader among boys of his age, especially found of round ball, which is our national game of baseball has evoluted. That's interesting. Wrestling, running, and jumping. He was very loyal to his friends, had a crowd of boys around him. Hannibal Hamlin's individuality as a boy was so pronounced and his traits so clearly defined that old friends of his who survived him remembered him perfectly as he was when a lad of 15 or 16, playing among them at Paris Hill. One description of him at his age says, Han, as we always called him, was an unusually large boy for his age. He was as tall, straight, supple, and dark as a young Indian. He was very warm-hearted, affectionate, and magnetic. His big black eyes twinkled with fun and life. Han was always our leader, and yet he never appeared to put himself forward. It was natural for us to wait to see what Han was going to do and then follow him. Sometimes we would get into a boyish scrape, but Han always stuck by us. He would go where we would. He never bragged about what he was going to do or had done, but he would go ahead and do it and say nothing. He was perfectly natural and honest. No one ever thought of questioning his word. Okay, interesting. Interesting. In running, jumping, and wrestling, Hannibal would beat us all. Interesting. Interesting. As a boy, Hannibal was as fair-minded, honest, and incorruptible as he was when a man, the boy, was father to the man. He was a born Nimrod, fisherman and farmer, so he was a really good hunter. Um, hmm, all right, let's find another interesting thing. Let's find another interesting passage. Okay, so this is further on in the book. Um, page 84, I'm assuming. Chapter 8, Work of the 28th Congress. Okay, let's go ahead and read this. Let me see. Okay. Mr. Hamlin was appointed a member of the Committee of Elections and was thus immediately thrown in contact with the extreme Southern members of the House. Among his associates on the Committee of Elections were Stephen A. Douglas, Robert C. Shank, and Garrett Davis. Speaker Jones' seat was contested by John Minor Botts, who won distinction by his loyalty to the Union when Virginia was the seat of war. The contest between Mr. Jones and Mr. Bott was admittedly close, and the session of the Committee of Elections aroused great excitement in Congress and interest throughout the country. Garrett Davis, the leading Whig member of the committee, was of that peculiar hot-headed, argumentative type of Southern politicians who seem to rely on the act of speech to enable them to come to a decision. And as Davis rarely knew his own mind, Mr. Hamlin's patience was more than once exhausted over Davis' waste of time. Finally, Davis and some of his sympathizers thought they could intimidate Mr. Hamlin and Mr. Douglas. The result was not satisfactory to Davis, and some fire eaters indulged in wild threats about shooting Douglas and the black Penobscot Indian, as Davis stigmatized Mr. Hamlin. The details of this affair were not then fully revealed, but the fact is apparent that Mr. Hamlin and Mr. Douglas believed that they had good reason to remember the old problem that to be forewarned is to be forearmed. As dueling was still in vogue, Southern fire eaters carried pistols, and drunken brawls among quick-tempered congressmen were not infrequent. Interesting. Mr. Hamlin armed himself. Interesting. That sounds very similar to, um, you know, we're gonna shoot that darky or whatever. Insert insert whatever you like. Let me see if we can find some more. Okay, now I'm just gonna go through the book and just keep. I actually fucked up and went out of order, so I'm just gonna keep jumping around and read some stuff that I found, like I said, interesting. Um, It's describing Hannibal Hamlin. Actually, the chapter is called Hannibal Hamlin as a lawyer. Um, hmm. The first time he came into my house and stood looking at me, I knew he was an uncommon kind of man. He stood 6 feet straight as an arrow. There was about him the natural air, simplicity, and nobility of an Indian sachem. There was a great power, too, in the steadfast look of his big black eyes. I thought he was one of the finest specimens of physical manhood I've ever saw. Interesting. There was iron in him, but it was tempered with a big heart. He was cordial, sympathetic, and magnetic. He was always a perfectly natural man. His career strengthened his rugged character and developed his great mind, but his success did not affect his nature. Interesting. Interesting. Um, the natural air, simplicity, and nobility of an Indian chief. He was the one of the finest specimens of physical manhood. Interesting. 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 All right, time to move on. Here is the passage that's kind of cited in the Lawrence Tenser book. It's talking about Hamlin and his swarthy complexion. Um, he was actually called out on it um, and tried uh, uh, pretty much ridiculed about it. Um, where is it? Right here. Instantly, Hamlin jumped to his feet and pointing his finger at Holmes, he retorted, "If a gentleman chooses to find fault with me on the account of my complexion, what has he to say about himself? I take my complexion from nature, he gets his from the brandy bottle. Which is more honorable?" Now, this doesn't make any fucking sense. Why would they have a problem with him and his complexion when he's supposed to be looking like fucking this? Who has a problem with that fucking complexion? If he is, this is it's the thing that needs to be answered. Why this man is detailed as a physical specimen. I ain't never heard any pasty white guy um being called a physical specimen or compared to an Indian chief. Um, with a swarthy complexion, dark skin complexion, um, and then also called a black Penescot. I can't even pronounce it. Nebuscot. I'm butchering it. Please forgive me. Compared to Black Indian, called a Black Indian, uh, he has the demeanor of a Indian chief. He has his body is a physical specimen, called a physical specimen. Um, but no, it's just this guy. Uh, it's just this guy. This guy, this guy walks into your house. Where can I find a younger picture of him? A so-called younger picture of him. This fucking buster walks into your fucking house, and you call him a fucking physical specimen. This motherfucker. this this man looks like a physical specimen. A physical specimen, y'all, with the demeanor of a Indian chief. He looks like a black Panebas, whatever, the black Indian, described as a black Indian. This fucking guy. This is in people. People really crack me up because all this information, I didn't say this information. This is a book this is a book created by his grandson with a lot of information, his own friends describing him, put together by his grandson. So people, if you're watching this video, you can say, oh well, he's being so frank, but it's really not. It's very simple. His own grandson uh included his enemies describing him, his friends describing him one way, and now he is portrayed as this. Like his enemies are talking about his complexion and how they have problems with it, how they want to shoot him because of his complexion, because how he looks like, and now I get a piece, like I get this shit. Who has a problem with this shit? Who in the Senate is who in the Senate has qualms with his complexion? I did not write this book. I did not I did not edit this book. I did not force these people to I did not go back in time and force these people to make a bullshit account of what this man looked like. If the gentleman chooses to find fault with me on the account of my complexion, what has he to say about himself? Would a white person say that? A so-called pale person? I mean, I don't even do they even like would they even say something like that? I take my complexion from nature. Who says that shit? White people don't say that shit. That's a fact. He gets his from the brand. That sounds like a white person right here. They get their color from when they're fucking drunk as shit. Poison. The fact was, the members of the house were glad to see so brave a young David fell the Goliath on the house at one blow. There were cries of "Go on," pointing his finger at Holmes. Hamlin continued, "I will also tell the member from Alfred that he is more conspicuous for trying to ride roughshod over young men than for trying to encourage them. He never extends a hand to them as they begin to toil up from the rugged path of life. He has not even a kind word for them. But as long as they are true to themselves and not to and to nature, and as long as the member of Alfred sticks to the brandy bottle, they need not fear him." The house cheered again, and Holmes, realizing that he had fairly brought flown this fierce denunciation on his head, took the floor, retracted his words, and made a manly apology. Then there was peace. The young Carthaginian routed the new Roman. I would change. Not old Roman, new Roman. You want to convince me this guy um, looks like this when his enemies' main talking points were to cite his complexion? I will say this again. Nobody has a problem with a complexion like this in the Senate or the House, or that's what they want. That's that's what's told. Nobody has a problem with this. But in the bibliography, um, in the bibliography, with his own grandson's um, I'm assuming his grandson is putting this out because it's accurate, and I assume that this book is getting his grandson's what support because he is listed as the author. So this is not some random dude. Well, maybe it is. Like I said, I try to find pictures of his grandson. Who knows who? All I can go by is how history described this man, and if the so-called grandson of him is agreeing with me, in an albeit um very sly, well, not sly, this all these stories are put in here for a reason. This his grandson did not put these stories of him being called this and that on accident. I would just say that. Let me see if I can find anything else. You know what? I think I did a good job on this book. I didn't read the whole thing. I just wanted to bring bring to bring to the table what I found interesting. Um, so I probably well I don't know. This is gonna be on like the if I do put this on the list, I'll have to finish it after I've got a whole bunch more books I want to read first. But the video's not done yet because there's some more things I want to talk about. Oh, oh, Library of Congress catalog, Library of Congress, Library of Congress, located in Washington D.C. Just in case you forgot, this book is in highly so-called highly prestigious um, colleges and libraries, but it's elusive. You can't find it on the internet. You can't find a PDF of it. Can't read it online. You can barely get the book without paying $1,000. Anyways, on from that. Here I have a another record, not from uh not about Hamlin, but it's about uh my dude. Um yeah, this my dude? No, fuck this man. Whoever the fuck this man is, fuck him. My dude, this guy, whoever the fuck this guy is. I don't know who the hell this guy is. The question I have is what did this guy do that was so great that people wanted to just jack the whole person. They took away the image of the real person and replaced them with whoever this guy is. So what did this guy do that was so great that people came together and agreed that he should get some fame? Who is this guy? Why why is he on this brown coin? Why is a white man on a brown coin? Looking the opposite way. I don't know. That's a different story, a different topic for a different time. But back to the point. We have a account from Walt Whitman. Um, uh, pretty famous guy. He has a whole bunch of works. I haven't really read any of them, but I have read a little bit of this, and I'll go ahead and read it out for everyone. Okay. August 12th. I see the president, supposedly this guy, almost every day, as I happen to live where he passes to or from his lodgings out of town. He never sleeps at the White House during the hot season, but has quarters at a healthy location some 3 miles north of the city. The Soldier's Home, a United States military establishment. I saw him this morning at about 8:30, coming into business, riding on Vermont Avenue near L Street. He always has a company of 25 or 30 cavalry. Actually, I wanna, I actually wanna see where the hell this is. What the hell does this shit look like? Well, if you didn't think it was in DC, it's in DC. I don't really care near L Street. Okay, take that. Mm. Lincoln down there where the niggas was at. It's niggas are at now. Anyways, I'm not really gonna find anything else. Okay. He always has a company of 25 or 30 cavalry with sabers drawn and held upright over their shoulders. They say this guard was against his personal wishes, but he let his counselors have their way. The party makes no great show in uniform or horses. Mr. Lincoln on the saddle generally rides a good-sized, easygoing gray horse, is dressed in plain black, somewhat rusty and dusty, wears a black stiff hat, and looks about as ordinary in attire as the commonest man. Okay, so I guess one of the things they got right was this man's hat. This man was rolling around in a fucking top hat, for real. So unfortunately, they didn't get the other more important parts, but I will give them that. They at least got one insignificant uh, part of his attire, his hat. Okay. A lieutenant with yellow straps rides at his left, and following behind, two by two, come the cavalrymen in their yellow striped jackets. They are generally going at a slow trot, as that is the pace set them by the one they wait upon. They wait on him. The sabers and accoutrements clank, and the entirely unornamental cortege, as it trots toward Lafayette Square, arouses no sensation. Only some curious stranger stops and gazes. I see very plainly Abraham Lincoln's dark brown face with the deep cut lines, the eyes, the eyes, always to me with a deep latent sadness in the expression. We have got so that we exchange bows and very cordial ones. Sometimes the president goes and comes in an open row. The cavalry always accompany him, with drawn sabers. Often I notice as he goes out evenings and sometimes in the morning, when he returns early, he turns off and halts at the large and handsome residence of the Secretary of War on K Street and holds conference there. If in his burrow, I can see from my window he does not align, but sits in his vehicle, and Mr. Stanton comes out to attend him. Sometimes one of his boys, a boy of 10 or 12, accompanies him, riding at his right on a pony. Earlier in the summer, I occasionally saw the president and his wife, toward the latter part of the afternoon, out in a barouche, on a pleasure ride throughout the city. Hmm. So, this is an eyewitness describing exactly what he saw. And he actually sees him a lot from what has just been described there. Um, he said he can very plainly see Abraham Lincoln's dark brown face with the deep cut lines and the eyes, which to him um, show a deep sadness in the expression. All I see is a fucking white guy. Um, that just I don't even like. Was this is this even a real dude? Like, did they just like digitally alter this? Like, is this fucking is this is this CGI? Is this a trap? Like, who is this guy? Is this guy even fucking real? Uh, Was this guy made in a lab? Man, who is this guy? Well, where's the dark brown face, man? And Walt, um, Walt Whitman is describing this man. Where was he fucking colorblind? Was he did not? Where is the pale, the pale pouting dude? The pale guy that just looks retarded. Where he didn't say that. Um, what did he say? What did he say? Dark brown face with the deep cut lines. If anybody can find that shit on this page, I'll give them $1 million. Like I said on the video before, if this guy, if the real guy is not portrayed like this, who the fuck is this guy? Why does he have a statue? Like, what did he do? Who is portrayed in the statue because it's not the real guy? What did this? He must have did some. The guy that's in actually in the statue must have did some horrible, some crimes against humanity shit, and they just gave him a fucking statue. Like, who is this guy? And this fucking clown, whoever the fuck, two fucking clowns. This is just insane. Uh, I don't know. Maybe it'd be more believable if McGraw-Hill actually for once put down an accurate account of events that happened. Or maybe if some other bullshit book creating mass producing uh shit company put this in a book. Maybe people will believe it then, but all I can go by is by what's putting down. That's all I can go by. And like I said, the life and times of Hannibal Hamlin by his grandson, Charles Eugene Hamlin. Well, if you have a hard time believing, um, Abraham Lincoln was actually a dark brown fellow, and described himself as a black fellow, um, then you have a hard time believing in King Kamehameha or King Kamehameha, however the hell you want to think about it, um, who was actually a real person. Um, and they say art imitates life. So a whole TV show based off a nigga, basically, or niggas. But anyways, this is all I have for this video. I'll have some more stuff posted eventually. Um, but before I go, I want to ask you the question one more time. Where is this um, physical specimen? Where is this football, basketball player? This physical specimen. Fuck, I'll give you where is this where is this golf player, this physical specimen? Where is this? Where is he at? I don't know where the fuck he is. Somebody find him.